So TikTok ads scaling masterclass. This will be the exact process basically from start to finish. What do you need to have in order to scale? Exact scaling strategies that I've seen working the best. Scaling multiple accounts to 5K, even to 10K a day in adspend. What you need in order to actually do that? How do you scale? All the bottlenecks that you might be facing as well. So this will be a step-by-step scaling masterclass though. I actually did a video overviewing some of the best scaling strategies. I think it was 2-3 months ago. Obviously now I try to be more consistent with this stuff honestly, but yeah, that actually did pretty decently. So yeah, this is going to be like the whole top level view, how I approach scaling. It also has some bonus scaling strategies that I've seen working. Let's actually jump straight into it because it do make almost sense. Actually gonna have it as a download below, so make sure you grab it if you want to check at your own pace, or you're gonna have this as a log, or you're gonna add notes to that scaling doc. So introduction, I wanna go just quickly. I know you're gonna jump into the good stuff here, but it's very important that we are clear on when you need to scale, because I know for myself, like I get so excited to scale, but in order to do scale, we need to have some proper foundations in order to actually do that. And so scaling is basically the phase we want to push results and reap basically the rewards of our testing. So it's again, it's so important not to rush to this part. We need to have a solid foundation of winning ads. We need to have gone through the testing process correctly. So we have identified the angles, and then each element of each creative that does work, for example, hook, and what's happening post hook, what's resonating. So we're gonna have very solid foundations of what is actually working in terms of creative, and start to push more spend into winning elements already. And we have clarity if we do have the testing structure that I've actually done a video. But in any case, if we need to have clarity in our testing in order to go and scale. So the whole purpose behind scale is basically to expand ad spend and reach behind the winning elements that we already identify. Again, as I said, hooks, messaging, audiences. This is, if you do have this right, you're gonna scale with maximum efficiency. If you don't, it's a very bad idea, because you're gonna waste a lot of money. So important principle that I want to consider, and this is one of the first most important thing. I know it's a bit boring, but it's super important. Always know your numbers. Is really critical when you actually scale in the ad account to really see more of a top level view of what's happening in the business. It's not just you spending more money, it's what's really happening from a business level. So when you actually maybe push too hard, the business might not have that much adequate stock, or it might not be able to support in terms of like customer support for that influx of sales. So make sure you communicate with the client, or if it is your business, make sure you have these things down, because when you scale budget aggressively, some things will actually might break down, and we don't really want to. Also, always go back and check your target CPAs and what we're actually shooting for. It's very easy to get lost when you actually push a lot of ad spend. And again, we need to do this gradually and in a very systematic way in order to get the most out of it. But yeah, before going into specific strategies, again, it's wise to go to do one more step. It's really optional in a sense. I mean, I've seen some efficiency from my side, from my testing and experience through audience testing, and I think you need to do, after you have identified the good creatives and you progress through the creative testing, you need to do some some actually audience testing as well. It's not the biggest lever you can pull. Obviously, creative is the biggest lever. You also don't have to rely on audiences in order to scale, but again, I think it's very key. Identify like a couple more audiences, big broad audiences, as apart from the broad audience that you can actually scale into. I've seen good efficiency in some audiences. Definitely on TikTok, that's even more relevant. I think Facebook, you can really push broad as much as possible. But we have seen very good efficiency, honestly, from interest tags, single interest targeting. So worth identifying before going into scale into some audience sensing, 2-3 key winning audiences. I've actually done a video about how I go about and conduct audience testing, so make sure you actually watch it if you want to learn more. So let's jump straight into the good stuff. Now, key things here, because then we're going through this process of scaling. I mean, do not underestimate the amount of creative that's needed to scale on TikTok. like, it's not Facebook. TikTok needs a lot of refreshing. Even if that means started editing, to edit does fatigue a lot faster. With that being said, I want to mention that do not have it as an excuse, so you can really switch creatives all the time. I've run creatives for months and months and produced very good results, but as a general rule of thumb, 9 times out of 10, it will fatigue much faster than Facebook, obviously. And again, second, you want big audiences to scale. Do not go into like low 6-figure audience sizes. Make sure they are broad, large interest tags, even lookalikes. I'll leave it like as a last resort. I haven't seen some very good results of it, but broad, large interest tags do tend to work very well. Now, you want to set your budget enough to get out of the learning phase, meaning hitting 50 conversions per ad set in a 7-day period, which should be important on TikTok because it's a much newer ad platform. Facebook has a lot of data gathered throughout the years. It's a 15-year-old ad platform, or even more maybe. So on TikTok, it's super critical to go about and set the budget and not actually set the budget, but aim to get out of the learning phase and really to push the budget at that point. Now, typically a good start would be to launch things at 3 to 5 times the target CPA, just to make sure you have a winning combination there and your creatives do work, very well. And then really aim to increase budget to get out of the learning phase, because that will give you the most stability in that account. So scaling requires so much spend, so it's super important that you only use your best target audiences. I know it's super common sense, but hey, I've done some mistakes. So have clear key points in place to protect ROI and efficiency. Super important. Make sure you write your target CPAs down, or have like a note, a section, or maybe Notion, or like it can be just a simple Google Doc, but have all your economics, or how you can be profitable, and have clear key points. I like to kill ads. Depending on the AOV, obviously. I like to have 3 times at least in spent of the AOV. If it's a high AOV product, might be like 1.5 to 2. I have clear killing points when you're actually comfortable of letting the spend going through. So now, once you have these solid foundations with the best performing creatives hook, it's really time to get and push some serious spend. Now, account structure is super important. You need to have 2 different environments testing to scale in order to scale with efficiency and predictability. As I said, I typically have a campaign for creative testing and in one core campaign we actually promote all the winners and really do all the scaling. The issue is when you actually have one testing and scaling environment is when you actually go out and spend 1-2K a day or more, you are introducing unproven variables into a very high spend campaign that could drastically fluctuate performance on a day-to-day basis. So that's why I like to have very structured way core with testing campaign. When you're actually managing low budgets and you don't have a lot of creatives, or you don't have like a very solid creative learnings, it does make sense to have just one campaign, but having 2 in order to scale, I think it's a must, or at least I like to approach that way, and I've seen the best results. Now, scaling methodologies, basically 2 ways to scale in a fundamental place. You have vertical scaling, basically increase your budget on on an ad level. Just click that edit button and just increase budget. 20-30% seems to be the sweet spot here, not to mess up with the machine learning here. Basically, and the second is horizontal scaling, which is basically duplicating the ads groups while leaving everything the same. You can also identify some winning audiences, some winning audience attributes, from the original ad set. And then you can actually, duplicate, maybe just skew down a bit, maybe like the ages or something. But again, it's really expanding. That's why we call it horizontal scaling. We have multiple ad groups. Super important. I've seen very good results with scaling horizontally on TikTok. Much more stability than vertical scaling in general. So I always urge for horizontal scale after a point, to be clear. So when I actually reach the budget and I have got out of the learning phase, I mostly go with horizontal scaling. After a point, I've seen things break much easier. Again, once you have multiple algorithms that are winning, we now have a horizontal scaling strategy that we can also then scale vertical into it. So when you have multiple ad sets duplicate it, then you can actually vertically scale each one in a sense. That gives multiple points to scale an account while maintaining stability and pushing higher budgets. Super important on TikTok. Again, Facebook much more consistent as an app platform, so on TikTok it's super important that we take these extra steps here. So this is how it looks like in a very, very rudimentary level. Now let's go into the TikTok scaling strategy that I know you were waiting for. These have the majority, and I'm going to in order how I like to use them in a sense to grow past 5K a day profitably. Again, there's no best strategy to really implement. I just want to throw it out there. I'm using all of them. Depending on the outcome that I actually want, how aggressively we want to scale, what we have available in terms of creatives, the client relationship, how the client is okay to pushing a lot of adspend behind it. So first and foremost, it's insane how good that is. I always urge for that. Single ad scaling, ABO budget, take the winning ad, number one ad, put the budget as I said 3 to 5 times the CPA, then scale it to the moon and aim to go at 50 conversions per week. It's the best number one in that account. Very similar fast to how we like to test creatives in the test campaign, but maybe one of the easiest, most straightforward ways and effective in a sense to force more spend behind one winning ad, isolating the ad in the creative, in the account, allowing max budget to go through that concept. We have scaled multiple accounts, I said, at 5K a day plus, using just this strategy. It also, in a sense, makes it easier to first of all scale, then you can actually go do some audience testing as well with that in a previous level. But again, I always edge for that. Make sure you push more budget into number one ad basically. Now then going to more traditional way of scaling instead, just ABO scaling, ABO budget. Again, ABO works insanely well on TikTok, much better than CBO in my opinion. Again, set the budget with the same format as above, 3 to 4 best ads. Again, working great, a much more stable way. Just you need to do some optimization after a point on an ad level. So yeah, very like good way to scale as well. Cost caps, go and test cost cap at 1 times CPA, 1.5 times CPA, 2 times the CPA, and see what you actually get delivered with 3 to 4 best ads. I like to go to 1 to 2 ads basically most of the times. So let me actually go with that. Then monitor closing and walk down the cap to the bid that gets the best CPAs and an adequate amount of spend. So let's say that you have a CPA, a cost cap at $20, then you have another cost cap at $25. Say that the first one, when it was like the $20, it gets most of the sales, high efficiency per spend. I'm going to walk down the cap, so I'll duplicate it into a $19 and $21, and even actually to cents, like a quarter. So after I'm seeing like good efficiency, like still the $20 one is the best, I'm gonna go $20.25. So it needs a lot more control and no more like hands-on stuff. So it works insanely good on like paydays, sales periods, this kind of stuff when you actually need to perform and hold the overall account CPA down by 10 to 20%, and really try to reduce it in like periods when you actually scale very hard. Again, I really want to mention that not a great idea to go for the cost cap as your first scaling action. It's more of a like supplementary one, as it probably means you have a creative bottleneck that you actually try to counter in a sense, and try to get it with some manual bidding and try to like mitigate it with some manual bidding. So make sure you go back and do your testing, your creative testing. So cost caps, it's a supplementary method. I like to scale through those, especially on like sales periods. Now, Pocket Theory audience. Pocket Theory is basically one audience we duplicated into like 3 to 5 times with 3 winning ads. It can be done in various ways. So you might have like, as I said, you might be scaling in single ad fashion, but you might duplicate the winning audience 2 or 3 times. And on this occasion, we're just duplicating the same winning audience multiple times, basing our theory that we try to hit different segments of the same audience by entering the auction at different points. Again, it's one of the most risky ones here. We most deploy on accounts we've been running for a while. We're comfortable, high budgets. We are very, we do have a lot of leeway with budget. We're not really strict, as well as like we know the specific nuances from a performance standpoint. We know how that account, it reacts. So again, really not my number one scaling action there. It's much more on very specific occasions. And last, the CBO, honestly, I've used that a handful of times due to basically the amount of spend that requires to get out of the learning phase. And second, I don't really trust the TikTok ad, machine learning thing as much as like Facebook. So it's basically, as I said, due to attribution, you will need on a campaign level to ensure that you're actually getting out of the learning phase in every ad set. But again, it really applies to the same thing that we just talked. I only use that maybe on specific accounts that we'll be running for a while, and we are very comfortable spending 1K behind one campaign. So that's the core, in a sense, in a way, how I like to use them. These are like scaling strategies. So let me just touch on one more thing that I like to do is bidding strategy testing. It can really, some things can be done like in combination with stuff, but it's very important to address because I do this all the time. After we have identified some winning ads and I push them into like a core campaign, I like to duplicate the ad group into value. Value works very, very well, and TikTok really pushes that. Essentially what it does is you're signaling the TikTok algorithm to go out and find the highest value customer, pushing the AOV a bit, and results in most cases. We've seen very, very good results. Again, very good to implement at that point that we actually try to start scaling, and we just duplicate those cost campaigns and try to optimize for higher purchase value. Now, what I normally do is I have one ad group that is based on value, where I actually duplicate all the winners from the lowest cost into that value ad group. So you can do that. You can like have it as a, in a sense, farming and actually harvesting like new creatives into that value ad set. And then you can actually like scale in any kind of the way that we just talked about. And another thing that you can do, you can also duplicate the winning ad group, the value ad group into min ROAS campaign, where you take a look at the average ROAS you set, and you actually set the minimum ROAS at that number. If you see great spend going through that ad group, good signal that you can increase the min ROAS bid and vice versa. This will also refresh things slightly in the auction and extend the creative lifespan. Again, it works in a sense as a manual bidding method, and again, after I use cost caps, my cost cap will be my number one preference. Then I'll go into manual bidding with some min ROAS campaigns. Again, as I said, you can also treat your value ad groups as an environment that the winning creatives from your lowest cost ad groups are being promoted, further scale them and hit them with different bidding types at the same time. And lastly, the last couple of things that nobody actually mentions is when you scale, it doesn't. There's so many ways to actually scale. Most people actually go into, okay, we just need to increase budget, but you can actually increase AOV, and this is where you scale because you get more from each customer. So really important when pushing auto spend to optimize AOV and CRO. Actually, obviously not the ideal way to go about it. You should have the landing page and the AOV of the product or the specific product that you're actually pushing prior to pushing a lot of spend, if that makes sense. But I'm just throwing out there, it's very good to work on this, especially before actually start to scale. It's not like a very short-term thing. I'm just throwing it out there that you need to check your AOV and CRO always, because you're going to get more out of your ad spend if you do optimize them. So that's pretty much it. The whole masterclass, I will have it linked in the description. So let me know if you have any questions. I would love to actually hear your feedback on this. These are the best things that I've seen, my experience. And thanks a lot for watching this. Have a good day, guys.